Your local view on WYCU LDTV 26, serving Charlestown, New Hampshire, the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, and central Vermont.
Coming up tonight on YCU, an apartment fire in Lebanon displaces 12 families. Response is strong among Springfield, Vermont landlords to get drug dealers out of their town and buildings. And we'll get some insight into the future of New Hampshire gambling. With more news, sports, and weather, stay tuned. It's time for YCU, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region and central Vermont. News, sports, weather, public affairs, and all that's happening in our area. The news on YCU, your local view.
Good evening, I'm David Carmichael. Lebanon Fire Department answered to a call at 81 Seminary Hill Road in West Lebanon shortly after 9 a.m. for a report of smoke coming out of a 12-unit apartment building. Lebanon police say that light smoke was throughout the basement, first and second floors, and they began evacuating residents. The fire department found a small fire in the basement apartment and quickly extinguished it. The building suffered minor smoke and water damage. No one was injured, but due to the extensive damage of the front stairwell, all 24 tenants are displaced. The Vermont, New Hampshire chapter of the Red Cross assisted residents with lodging. Seminary Hill Road was closed for approximately 1 hour. Fire units remained on the scene assisting property representatives until 10:30 a.m. The fire is still under investigation and is considered not suspicious at this time. Springfield, Vermont police arrested a Charleston, New Hampshire woman on petty larceny and felony larceny charges. Police say that they arrested 24-year-old Holly Bates on 2 active Vermont warrants, 1 misdemeanor charge of petty larceny for her alleged involvement in stealing cash from a local business, and 1 felony charge of larceny for her alleged involvement in the robbery of an elderly man at the North Springfield Dam last September. After appearing in Windsor Superior Court Criminal Division on Wednesday, she will remain in the Southern State Correctional Facility in lieu of a $500 security bond. Response has been strong from Springfield, Vermont landlords who are interested in forming an association to better tackle mutual problems. Landlord Wendy Germain said that she had a response of more than 20 area landlords who were interested in working on joint issues. Germain, on behalf of the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, helped organize a meeting last fall for landlords with the goal of helping rid Springfield of drug dealers. As an association, the landlords would have a better influence on legislation currently pending in Montpelier. The proposed legislation that caught Germain's eye would allow landlords to attach a person's pay, something like placing a lien on their wages, to get unpaid rent. The Lebanon Planning Board delayed voting on a proposed major development in West Lebanon at the old quarry site between Route 12A and Route 4, citing the lack of information needing to present a clear picture of what the business park would ultimately look like. The board members were preparing to approve a package of 10 business lots being proposed by Twin State Sand and Gravel, but realized that they didn't have access to the data that deemed crucial, such as the height of the building elevations and the sight lines of what the development would look like from nearby residential neighborhoods and Interstate 89. The board also discussed whether that it would affect the potential Mascoma Greenway recreational path. A water main break on Etna Road caused water to be shut off to several nearby businesses and residents. People living as far as Hanover and Bank Street reported discolored water. The break was reported around noon yesterday near Wilson Tire. The Public Works Department put out an alert to cut several businesses' water for 8 to 10 hours. Even the Lebanon High School saw some discolored water. However, no school was canceled. If you have discolored water and live in this area, the Public Works Department is urging you to run your water for 20 to 30 minutes. A House committee is holding hearings on a series of bills aimed at slowing down or stopping construction of a 180-mile transmission line originating in northern New Hampshire. The privately funded Northern Pass project will bring 1,200 megawatts of Canadian hydroelectric power into New England, but it has run into some strong opposition. Critics argue that the towers along the route, especially in the North Country, would damage New Hampshire's environment, lower property values, and make the state less attractive to tourists. Supporters argue that the power would reduce the need for power from sources that produce carbon emissions. The Vermont Senate is getting ready for a vote on legislation that supporters call end-of-life choices and critics call physician-assisted suicide. The Senate voted today whether to follow a recommendation from the Senate Judiciary Committee to reject the measure. The Judiciary Committee came out on Friday against the legislation, a week after the Health and Welfare Committee voted unanimously to support it. If supporters defeat the effort to reject the bill, the Senate will then debate passage with possibility of amendments. A group of Vermont lawmakers and heads of disability and civil rights groups are pushing legislation that would create new rules governing police who use electronic stun guns. A bill is in the works that would set up statewide training and rules for law enforcement officers using tasers and similar devices. The effort follows the death last year of McAdam Mason, a Thetford man who died of a heart attack after a trooper hit him with a taser. Attorney General William Sorrell announced last month that Senior Trooper David Schaefer was justified using the stun gun on Mason last June because the man was distraught and failed to comply with orders and made threatening movements toward the trooper. After the break, we'll get a taste of what kind of food is at the Elixir restaurant in White River.
The YCU News continues in a moment.